Sometimes life gets crazy and it's just too easy to focus on all the negativity in the world. Welcome to the audio antidote to that. On this show, we highlight the amazing and positive work being done in the world to remind ourselves that there is hope out there for the future. And along the way, we'll pick up some new perspectives and ideas so we can all work together to make the world a little bit better. Because we know that when creativity and community come together, we can create good. This is Creating Good with Matt Barnes. Let's do it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Good with Matt Barnes. My name is Matt Barnes. I'm your host. Welcome. This is the podcast where we just want to celebrate the good that is being done in the world by people, because sometimes we forget, with all the bad stuff we hear about all the time, we forget that there's good being done by people, and creating good is really just a movement to encourage people to use what they have to create good in the world. And what better way to do that than be inspired by other people's stories, the stories of people who are doing that already. So that's what we're all about here. You can be following us online at creatinggood.co. That's our website. That's also our Instagram handle. So you can be following us along there. Take the Creating Good pledge at creatinggood.co. And I'm so excited about this. We have the second issue of the Creating Good magazine, and this thing is going to be awesome. We're wrapping it up right now. We're doing a big launch party here in Newport Beach at Rogue Collective on June 20th. And you can go to Rogue Collective. No, sorry. You don't want to go to roguecollective.com. Well, you can go there too and learn about Rogue Collective and the space and the sort of creative playground we have here. But go to creatinggood.co and get more information about that launch party. It's a burgers and brews party, and it's going to be a blast. If you're in the area, we would love to have you come out for this. Check it out and be a part of the Creating Good community right here in our own building. So that is June 20th. And yeah, we'd love to see you. It'd be really fun. We like you. Maybe. I think so. I think we'd like you. Yeah. Anyway, today we've got a creator of good on the podcast, Eliza Pesuit. She is the visionary founding executive director of Global Glimpse. Now, I truly believe that traveling the world is the antidote to apathy, to a lack of compassion, a lack of understanding. It opens your eyes. It helps. And she has founded Global Glimpse. It's a premier youth travel nonprofit. It's making international leadership and educational experiences accessible to high school students from diverse backgrounds, helping people who maybe wouldn't get the chance to have these experiences, and open their eyes to the injustices in the world, but just also the beauty of the world, the amazingness of the world that we have. She has a deep passion for this, and she's navigated the organization through the evolving landscapes of both the travel industry and the educational systems, and also, the COVID pandemic. She's awesome. I loved having this conversation with her. So, Eliza Pesuit, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Matt, such an honor. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. I love learning about new people and the good that's happening in the world. And so, I can't wait to dive in. But before we do that, we always start with 3 random questions. I know you know
I'm
that.
ready. I'm ready.
All right. So we have a list of, it's over 100 questions now, and we randomly choose 3 of them. And here we go. I don't think these are too hard. All right. Guilty pleasure. What's your guilty pleasure food?
Oof. Lately, it's been the oat milk ice cream from Ben & Jerry's. Fire.
Really?
So good,
Okay.
especially the chocolate caramel core one.
Okay.
That's the kill.
I'm gonna have to give that a go. I have not tried that. Oat milk ice cream.
Also, the brand. Love the brand.
Yeah,
Ben
of
& Jerry's
course.
is always on point. So
Of course. Well, that's from your neck of the woods, right?
there we go, Vermont.
That's right. All right. Second question. Music. What is some music that someone would be surprised to find on your phone?
Probably country. I don't listen to a lot of country, but Beyonce's been pushing the envelope. I've
Yeah.
been branching out.
Yeah. There you go. On top of it, that's good. Trendy, but maybe unsuspected. Good. And last question is, what was the first movie you saw in a movie theater?
I remember this vividly, and I lost my dad a couple years ago. And so this makes this memory feel even more just powerful. It was Homeward Bound.
Oh,
I think
wow.
with my mom and dad. Um, I was probably 5 or 6,
Mhm.
but I remember it was, like, so scary. It was so scary. There was, like, the chase scenes
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
like, "Is he gonna make it? I don't know."
totally.
I think that's
Homeward
probably
Bound.
one of the first ones.
There you go. All right, you have successfully passed 3 random questions.
Thanks,
How do
thanks.
you feel? Feel good? Accomplished?
I I feel great. I
Okay.
mean, I'm thinking I'll bring this to my team. It's like automatic success, check.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You can't lose really, unless you just answered in a way that I judge you for. So, uh,
Woo! Cross
let's
my
go
fingers.
ahead and jump in. I wanna get to know you. What is your origin story? How did you where'd you what's your background, and how did you get to where you're at today?
Ooh, that is a long story. We'll try to give you the cliff notes, the inspiring cliff notes. So I am the daughter of 2 people from very different walks of life. I joke around that about as diverse as 2 white people can be as my mom and dad. My dad was from rural Ohio, grew up in steel country. Father worked in the mills. Parents didn't graduate 6th grade. And mom was from outside of Boston, Harvard-educated lawyer father, Russian Jewish. So economic disparity,
Yeah.
religious disparity, cultural disparity, the whole 9 yards. And I think the foundation of my work and the way I see the world is the understanding that people from very different backgrounds can have both conflict and deep love and respect.
Yeah.
And that the coexistence of those 2 things is so important to a healthy society and
Yeah.
so lacking in our current society. And so
I don't
I
know what
think
you're
that
talking
lens is
about. No. That doesn't seem right at all.
no, no, it's all fine. We're all
No, no, no.
so
Everybody gets along
excited about
perfectly. It's a very peaceful coexistence right now.
peaceful isn't the key though. It's the ability to navigate through conflict with respect.
Yes.
That's what's lacking, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so I grew up, mom and dad met in Pittsburgh, through a friend and became really close friends. And then at some point we're like, well, I guess I should holler at you. And um, one thing led to another. About 10 years after they met, and they got together and had me late. So dad was 45 or something, and mom was
Mm.
almost 40. So I had older parents growing up. And mm, I think because, to be honest, I just grew up in a home with a lot of conflict, I'm
Mhm.
really good at navigating different kinds of human.
Yeah.
And I had some pretty formative experiences in high school, particularly. My mom navigated stage 4 breast cancer, and my
Mm.
father, um, bless his heart, was a wild human. So thinking about navigating the world without my mother was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had to really step up in responsibility at a young age. I stayed, close to home, went to UMass Amherst. I grew up in Western Massachusetts. Um, yeah, there's a west of Massachusetts. It's not just Boston. We're like real proud of our side of the state. It's not Vermont either.
Got it. Got it.
Um, and so I stayed local. And then as my mom recovered from her battle with cancer, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I need to
Yeah.
go do something. I need to see something.
Yeah.
And somebody told me you could get a job in national park. And I was like, what's a national park? I'm from the Northeast. Like, you don't know what a national park is. And so I went on coolwork.com and I got me a job in Yosemite National Park, and I rolled out there and took a bus up into the high country. And um, that was my first kind of out of um, far, far out of comfort zone experience. And I
Yeah.
just thrived on it. I was like, this is it. Out of comfort zone experiences, like, give me the limit. I want to push in every way. And so from there, I went and spent 2 months in rural southern Louisiana after Hurricane Rita and Katrina hit. I have a cousin who married into the Coshada tribe in Louisiana, and they were mounting a big response to the hurricane. And
Yeah.
so I spent 2 months in like Indian country in southern Louisiana doing anything they needed me to do and just realizing how totally inadequate and like useless I was 20, which made me think, damn, I need a skill. Sorry for swearing. I need a skill set if I wanna contribute, make a difference in the world. And I've always been someone who is motivated by connection, by impact, more than anything else. And so I was like, I need to speak Spanish.
Hmm.
That'll give me a core skill set I can work across populations. And I was like, I'll be a nurse. That'll give me a real concrete skill set I can work anywhere in
Sure.
the world. So I had saved up all my money in Yosemite and I went to South America for 6 months by myself. And luckily my parents were really supportive. Just kind of had faith in my wild side, certainly had a part in cultivating it. And so I spent 6 months traveling through Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador on my own. And I realized some important things through that experience. First of all, like, I had so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like dancing on bars in Cusco. I was 20 years old. I was beyond any could have imagined, right? And then I also had some very um important grounding perspective though. And I remember standing in the Sacred Valley looking out, over the Inca tiered terraces there and watching this probably 13, 14-year-old girl climb these very steep um terraces, and she had a baby, how they tie the baby to the back.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, looking at her like, wow, I just won a life lottery in
Yeah.
every way. Like, here I
Yeah.
am able to cross borders, able to prioritize joy, learning. And so that hit me really hard. And I'd always had a vent around social impact, but that was like a deep calling
Yeah.
around equity and access. And then the second piece that I really noticed was like everyone I met people all from all over the world traveling. I didn't meet Americans. And if I met
Hmm.
Americans, they looked like me. And I had
Yeah.
grown up in a pretty diverse environment, a lot of Puerto Ricans, Cambodians. And so I was like very cognizant that school as a form of exposure and education was not something that Americans did. And if they did, they came from more resourced, more highly educated
Right.
backgrounds. And so I kind of came back to the US at 20. I had two more years of college, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a nursing degree. But I was sort of ruminating on this, like, this is the most powerful form of education,
Uh-huh.
and we're totally failing to do it in the US, right? The
Yeah.
the way that we're approaching education isn't equipping young people with the skills, perspective, passion, curiosity, confidence, agency, um, that immersive learning experiences provide, right?
Yeah.
And so, I finished my time at UMass, found every way to travel back to Latin America. I was fully fluent in Spanish at the time by then. Um, And then in 2008, I met my co-founder at Global Glimpse in Nicaragua, and he was like opposite skill set for me. So, I mean, I like to think I had skills. I was 23. I don't know what I had, but I was idealistic. I was a hustler. I had already started working with young people. I spoke Spanish. Um, and he was a, Stanford MBA, management consulting, Booz Allen and Company. And he had somebody introduced us in Nicaragua, and he had the same idea, but coming at it from like global business in order
Mm.
to prepare the next generation of leaders in the US
Yeah.
to navigate the global economy, to thrive, to lead. We needed to give them global exposure. Global leadership takes global exposure. And he was Indian, Pakistani, Iranian, had also grown up in Ohio like my dad.
Hmm.
And so we really connected, and I was like, "Well, I'll build the program. You go get the money and figure out the US side. I'll build the Latin America side," because he
Yeah.
wanted to launch in Nicaragua. And so that was the genesis of Global Grants. And because the mix of our perspectives, background, skill sets really laid a unique and powerful foundation that was both mission driven and business savvy. And I think that's what I don't see
Yeah.
often invest in the nonprofit sector, and it's what has allowed us to scale. So fast forward 15 years. I started this at 23, so you can do the math. That's big 40 this year. Um,
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah.
So we're pacing to serve our 10,000 students in 2025. We're serving roughly 1,000 students a year now, working in 100 high schools and organizations across the U.S. with key markets in the San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Massachusetts, and I've built industry shifting partnerships with leaders across the travel industry, especially United Airlines, Expedia Group, Away, Marriott International, Snap. And I think it's that like eagerness to figure out how you align business priorities with
Yeah.
impact and
Yeah.
how you create a model that is, yes, grounded in impact and passion and idealism, but has practicality and can evolve
Yeah.
based on the needs of the young people you serve, their families, etc. So, long story. That's where I come from and how I got here.
Very cool. That is very cool. I mean, the need for that different just perspective for people anywhere, really. I mean, wherever you grow up, you have a certain perspective. I was talking with somebody recently who moved here from Russia, and her family's still back in Russia, and she, talks to them and is trying to tell them about the what's really going on with Ukraine and all that. And they only know state media, so they're like, no, that's all lies, none of that's real. And I mean, but we only know what we know. We only know what we've seen and experienced. And so that getting out of that bubble, getting different perspectives, like it opens your eyes to so many different realities and possibilities. And in a lot of time, I mean, for me it was, and it sounds like for you, wow, like how good do I have it? I hit the jackpot, the on where I happen to be born, and the situation I'm in. And getting that perspective is so important. How practically does it work when you're working with these schools and these students?
Okay, so it's a 2-year program. We build long-term partnerships with schools, and we work with educators, administrators in those schools. We call them Global Glimpse leaders, and they champion the program in the school. And so we provide it's a train the trainer model. We provide the framework, the resources, the curriculum, the nomination process, but they really lead the program in their schools. And this is important because the majority of students we're serving come from under-resourced, underrepresented families where travel, especially in an immigrant, um, you know, family, is not something you think of as character building, perspective building, right?
Right.
Or nobody in the family's ever had a passport. And so
Right.
just even building that comfort, awareness, etc. So we have a very grassroots model where our staff work in partnership with educators to nominate a cross section of students at each of our partner high schools, roughly 10 to 20 per school per year. And we look to nominate students that wouldn't necessarily self-elect, not
Okay.
necessarily the valedictorian, students that show leadership potential, but might not realize it without additional support, guidance, and just even having an educator nominate you, believe
Right.
in you, invest in your potential is a big step for someone, for a young person at 16, 17. So we work with juniors. They get nominated in the fall. We're heading into recruitment season now. And then they apply. We do information sessions virtually and in person now, so that there's accessibility. We do them in Spanish, English, and then once they apply, we have an sort of review acceptance process. And if they're accepted, it's need blind, and so we don't look at a family's income.
Mm.
We have the way the model works is we basically know based on the demographics of the school, most kids at this school are going to be full scholarship, or most kids at this school are going to be, you know, partial pay. Most kids at the
Yeah.
schools are going to be full pay, and that's how we sort of build the model. We operate in a sliding scale, um, with scholarships allocated based on need and the socioeconomic situation in the community, knowing that a kid that doesn't have resources in an affluent community can fundraise easier than a kid that doesn't have resources in a
Right.
very low income community. And so once they're accepted, they're assigned to a trip, and um, we begin to prepare over the course of the spring. So we run workshops virtually and in person that build a foundation around globalization, youth leadership, cultural awareness, and then all the nuts and bolts of making sure you get your passport, making sure the family is supportive and understands how to prep a student to travel. Um, Turning off this noise. And then once they're, they go through the full spring curriculum, they travel summer after junior year. So
Okay.
this summer, we sent 885 students in 43 cohorts,
Wow.
roughly 20 students per cohort. We work in Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, and Panama. And the international program focuses on three learning pillars: global education, leadership development, and service learning. Um, Under the global education piece, every day has a different theme: history, politics, business, aid and development, education. And then we weave leadership throughout. So each student leads their peers through a full day and is responsible for everything from wake up, which is hilarious. Like, picture a 16-year-old being responsible for waking 20 other 16-year-olds
Oh
up.
yeah.
They do some stuff. And then they also lead reflection sessions every night. We have a nightly meetings. They guide, interviews with um, speakers. About 40% to 45 of our students are Latinx. So you have an
Mm,
amazing thing that happens when your Latino students are really able to use their language skills as an
yeah.
asset versus the way it's often seen in the US,
Yeah.
um, as, an inhibitor in their education. And so
Right.
that's a phenomenal shift in their minds. And then the culmination of the international immersion experience is a service learning project. We call it the Community Action, or CAP project. And students spend time understanding needs assessment: who are the leaders in the communities, who's taking action, what's been effective, what hasn't. We'll often work with a local organization or leader to ensure that there's sustainability and long-term stewardship of any of the projects we work on. And then the students really work on a collaborative project, small budget, but they design it, they develop it, they navigate the challenges of it's raining, you can't paint. How do you do cement? Like,
Yeah.
learning the basics of
Yeah.
what it actually means to do service. It's not getting dirty and getting frustrated and then working through that.
Yeah.
And so when they come out of the program, the international program, they come out empowered, inspired. It's the spark. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
a big world, and I can do something, and my
Yeah.
actions matter. And what do I want to do next? And where do I feel that I have potential? And how do I think about, my avenue to succeed, to make a difference in my community, in the world, et cetera. And so that channels right into a follow-on leadership program, their senior year of high school, where they mentor the next cohort in their school, and we engage them in career mentorship, in college readiness, um, all kinds of exposure to how they can take these skills into their next step.
I love it. It's so good. And I mean, you guys sound like at this point, I'm sure that, it doesn't always feel this way to you, but it sounds like a pretty well-oiled machine. Like you guys know what you're doing. You've got it together. I'm sure that has not always been the case, right? Like every organization, especially nonprofits, you've got those growing pains and those things that are what's been, if you had to pick one or two, like the biggest challenges for you guys as you've been growing Global Glimpse over the last, what you said, 15 years.
Good one. One of the I'll give you 2. One, was really figuring out the airfare challenge. And
Mm,
this I knew. Back in
yeah.
2010, I was like, "I gotta crack this nut." You can't build a organization focused on travel with your budget fluctuating by 50%, no ability to sort of standardize
Right.
how you're gonna, navigate a third of your operating budget.
Yeah.
Um, and so there was no model for in-kind investment at scale in the airline industry
Right.
that I could see, right? And this tracks with sort of overall how corporate social responsibility was seen,
Mm.
10 years ago, 5 years ago, right? It was like, we throw, $10,000 to because our leadership likes it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or somebody asked.
Sure.
And so I've always, I've just always thought there was a better way to do that that
Yeah.
would add greater value for the companies and ensure sustainability for the nonprofit sector. And so I remember sitting on a United flight and I was like, we should be on the seat back. Like, this is a no brainer. It's
Yeah.
United unlocking potential, like first flight.
Yeah.
And so I had that idea in kind of 2010, and it took me until 2018 to bring it to life.
Wow.
But it was, I think, 2016 when I told my board, I'm all in. Like, I'm going to give me 2 years
Yeah.
to figure this out and evaluate if it can be done. If not, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board here. And there isn't really a growth pathway beyond a couple hundred students. Um, and I was able to work my way in, and the core pieces of that, certainly timing and luck played a role, but we launched programs in Chicago because that's where United are, and I was able to build a relationship with the Boeing Foundation that got me to the table with executives at United, and parlay that into an initial investment, and then I was able to get one of their leaders to come see the program in person, and that was it. And,
Yeah.
this was 2017, 18. I'm a $2 million organization at the time, and I went into, Wells Tower in downtown Chicago, and I had my, perfect pitch deck, and I was like, "Here's the Rolls Royce. I'll be so lucky if I get the Toyota Camry."
Yeah.
And they signed on for the Rolls Royce, and it was like, "Here's 2 million in kind when your budget's 2 million." And
Wow.
so that was game changing, right? It
Yeah.
allowed me to professionalize the organization, build a reserve, um, really envision the next stage of growth, and it unlocked um, my understanding around what corporate partnership could look like.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is they don't look anything like what I thought.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you
Working with United was like, I thought they were gonna be like, "Here's your 2 million and, like, do it for us." And it hasn't been like that at all. Actually, as the nonprofit partner, you're the expert, and you've
Yeah.
gotta guide your
Yeah.
partners on your priorities, on the avenues that they can engage. Everything has to be so tight and directive and repetitive and enforced because they are constantly just battling for the budget that they have to allocate, and
Yeah.
B, dealing with shifting priorities, shifting leadership, shifting departmental structures. I mean, it's crazy,
Yeah.
right? So that for me was like, oh,
Yeah.
they're not gonna tell me what to do. I have to tell them what to do, and then I have to be super flexible and fast moving and build a team that can actually, perform in that
Yeah.
space, which again in the nonprofit sector is not the norm,
Right.
right? That's not what in most organizations, unless you get to say the charity level, charity water level or
Right.
something, that's harder. So that one is a big moment. Um, the other one I think is crisis.
Mhm.
Crisis unlocks creativity. It unlocks an ability to think about things differently, see things differently. It demands that. And so coming out of the United Partnership, we were just on this rocket ship, right?
Yeah.
And it was dangerous because we had a board that was not really strategic about how
Mm.
to leverage the moment and how to balance growth with sustainability and how to build, the key in the organization that could really maximize that investment over the long term. And
Right.
so then we got hit with the pandemic, right? Like
Yeah.
immediately following,
Yeah.
which I had to cut 3/4 of the team. We went from 30 full time to 8.
Oh, wow.
We had 0 earned revenue for basically 2 years.
Right.
We had to lean fully into our philanthropic partnership. We basically reinvented and built a whole virtual program to serve the needs of educators and students in that
Wow.
time. Um, and we learned so much, and we were able to really drill in on the things that would have been problematic if we hadn't gone through that
Right.
challenge and we had just stayed on that upward trajectory. So I think that both like tremendous success and tremendous struggle
Yeah.
are critical in the evolution of an organization and critical to the success and sort of how we've gotten where we are.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, the thing that stands out when you're talking about this, I mean, obviously the ability to adapt is huge and is something that I think I was so impressed with how actually well a lot of nonprofits did during the pandemic. There were a lot because I work with a lot of nonprofits, and honestly, I kind of expected some of them to potentially fall apart. And I was like waiting for the email that's like, "Hey, we're not going to be able to do this anymore," or whatever. And they adapted so well; it was very impressive. I think the thing that stands out in your story for me is the looking at those strategic partnerships and identifying them not just as people who can donate, because I think a lot of nonprofits look to corporations of, oh, maybe they'll just give us some money, maybe they'll just give us, but looking for actual strategic partners, and yes,
Uh,
resources and all that, but um, you looked at what you're doing and go like, who are the right people to help us actually not just financially but accomplish this mission and grow toward this. And that is, I don't see enough of that. It's something that it's like kind of a given in the for-profit sector, but in the nonprofit sector, it's almost when you suggest those things, people are like, "Oh, I hadn't even thought thought of that." So
yeah.
that's really cool and impressive. I think it seems overwhelming to a lot of people, but it's
And it
also
seemed overwhelming to me,
yeah,
right? Like back in 2016, 17, I was like, I have no idea how you do this.
right,
The only examples really to look at were like the Boys and Girls Club and Banks of America. Like,
yeah, right, right,
I don't know. It was
yeah,
totally overwhelming.
yeah,
And I think how I think about our work and then the role that we can play and I can play in the sector now is demystifying that. Like
yeah,
here's tools, here's ways to think about this. Here's how to use your network, your LinkedIn. Corporations are people.
yeah,
Like when I approach a partnership now, I'm not just approaching the company, I'm thinking about the leaders, the tiers of leaders, what their values are, what their passions are.
yes. Yeah, it's interesting because when I work with even for-profit clients who are looking to tell their story in better ways and that kind of thing, a lot of times they'll say things, like, "Oh, well, we're more B2B, so it doesn't really matter." And I'm like, "But those Bs are people. There's still people at there making those decisions. You still need to connect with a person." And that's how you bring people into your story and you get the cooperation, the whatever it is that you need. How I mean, without going into a crazy amount of detail, but like with United, meeting with them, how did you communicate that? How did you was that difficult to get them sort of on board with what you're doing, or was it pretty like a quick yes? No worries.
I think um it's get the right message to the right people at the right time. And so you've
Right.
got to read all of those pieces
Yeah.
going into it. With United, I had the right message. We're in Chicago. We're serving low income Chicago young people. We're doing it with Boeing, and you want to work with Boeing right now, and you want to do something that's going to brand your partnership together around Chicago public schools, right? So I had the right message at the right moment. And then I knew the right person was a woman named Sharon Grant. And she was Chief Community Affairs Officer. She was recently appointed. So she was in a moment to sort of leave her mark
Yeah.
on the company. It was the first officer level community affairs leader that they'd ever hired. She's the first Black female officer. So there's a lot of pieces
Yeah.
there. And so I worked to figure that out. She went to one of our partner high schools.
Oh,
We did
nice.
an event at that high school. We invited her to be the launch speaker at the event
Oh,
with
wow.
Janice Jackson, who was the head of Chicago Public Schools at the time. And so there's so many pieces of that strategy.
Mm,
And then Sharon and I connected personally, and she ended up joining our board of directors.
Oh, wow.
and she's my greatest mentor, dearest friend, second mother. She
Wow.
was there. She came for a week when my dad passed, and I had to travel for work to take care of my, 6-month-old.
Yeah.
And so it's like, again, people.
Yeah.
These are people,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
can't think of these companies as these conglomerates. You've got to think of them as the individuals, and especially in the more senior roles, how they guide and how they make decisions and what they care about.
Yeah.
So that's, United, it was all of those pieces combined. And once I had figured out it was Sharon and there was potential and she was equally invested in the mission,
Right.
and would also serve her to move the work forward, I really did everything in my power to bring her into the work.
Wow. That's so great. Like that just shows the power of really being strategic about your partnerships and thinking beyond just getting that check. You know, you truly built a partnership there. And I think that is where so many nonprofits, for profits, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're looking to create good in the world, looking for the opportunities to to connect with others and create actual relationships and see how we can work together to benefit.
Absolutely. And it's also just way more fun.
Right.
Like it's real, it's human. It's,
Well,
you
that's
know?
why we do our we do this and our creating good live events and stuff, because it's so fun to just get together and go like, wait, I've got this and you've got that. What could we do to, like, oh my gosh, yes, like we could do something amazing that neither of us could do alone,
Exactly.
and just
Right.
bring more good into the world. It's just, I love that. That's so great. Well, last question for you. What is the thing in your job on a daily basis that brings you the most joy?
I think about this a lot because I just think I'm so privileged to do work every day that brings me joy.
Yeah,
Like, there's not much that doesn't bring me joy these days, honestly,
I
because
can see that though. You seem like a very joyful. You exude that.
thank you. But I think it's also having lived through hardship, right? I've
Yeah.
lost a parent, I've lost a brother-in-law, I've lost friends, I've had a traumatic postpartum injury that left me bedridden for months. Like, I
Oh,
know what it feels like to struggle,
yeah.
and I know what it feels like to not struggle. And
Yeah.
so any day that I'm like able to be creative, able to spend my time collaborating with amazing people, learning, growing, pushing, my um comfort zone skill. And I always think that's funny, right? At this stage, I have all the aura of success, right? So
Hmm.
people are like, oh my God, like you just must be great at everything. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm just seeking the next tier of mentors, right? Like I'm just, where's my next level up? Where's my next growth? And
Yeah.
that's always uncomfortable. It's like scary to navigate those spaces. But I love that. Like I
Yeah.
love the feeling
It's a good
of
scary.
challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so great. Well, Eliza, thank you so much for being with us. How can people find you and find out more about what you're doing at Global Glimpse?
Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm
Yep.
always talking, engaging, connecting. Connect with me. Tell me your stories. Tell me how I can help. Tell me how we can partner. Check out globalglimpse.org if you've got a teenager, 16, 17-year-old, and you're looking for a way to broaden their horizons, to give them a little dose of reality, to humility, maybe.
Yeah.
Send them with us. We love to bring in young people. And even though we work in key markets, we do welcome applications across the country. So check it out,
Awesome.
globalglimpse.org.
Awesome. Eliza, thank you so much for being here today. Just really have enjoyed this.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Matt.
Absolutely. Creating Good with Matt Barnes is recorded at Rogue Collective in beautiful Newport Beach, California. It's hosted and executive produced by me, Matt Barnes. Post-production is by our amazing friends over at Fame, the B2B podcast agency. Writing is by Matt Barnes and Taylor Bolanos from Rogue Creatives. Creative direction and design is overseen by Corey Hill of Rogue Creatives. Theme music is composed and performed by Jared Atherton of Chapters. Huge thanks to our amazing guests for joining us this episode, and thank you to all of you incredible listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, and would imagine you did if you're still listening, so don't forget to help us spread some good by giving us a good review. Preferably like 5 stars, lots of really nice words. It's very helpful. Also, tell your friends and subscribe so we can come straight into your potholes each and every time we have a new episode. Take the Creating Good pledge on our website at creatinggood.co. We'll catch you next time. This has been a Rogue Creatives production.